So it's a special day in American history. It always will be. For those lives that were touched by it, certainly, their lives have changed, as a result of it. You talked about the heroism. When I visited them in the hospital that night, wounded, there were three women laying side by side, after I talked to them a little bit, I was leaving, and one of them said, "You can't leave until you hear our story." And I said, "Ma'am, what are you telling me?" She said, "Well, this lieutenant colonel laying in the bed next to me, she's a small framed woman, and she said, she saved my life." I said, "What happened?" She said, "I was on fire. She put the fire out. Everything was black. The ceiling had fallen in on us. She put me on her back, and she crawled through a blackened hallway where no one could see until we were free of the smoke. She took a computer and threw it through the window, and she pitched me out. I broke both my legs. I didn't know what happened to her. Then I found out this other woman here said, well, I know what happened. She said she came back and got me. She had passed her in the hallway and heard her whimpering in her office. And she was paralyzed by fear and by injury of moving. So this woman gets decorated for what she does now. Because now she's just not saving her life. She puts her own life in danger and goes back and saves someone else's. Brought her out, pitched her through the same window. She breaks a leg and then she jumps out behind her. She doesn't break anything, remarkably so. And those three women were laying side by side in that hospital. That was typical of some of the heroism that took place on that day. 3 weeks later, we had a ceremony recognizing everyone that was wounded, to include civilians who we had to design a new medal for, because you're not authorized to get a Purple Heart if you're a civilian. And in that ceremony were people who were decorated for heroism, just like the first responders in New York City displayed to all of America their heroism. As people were leaving the World Trade Center, our fire department and police were rushing to help people. In that ceremony, standing in front of me, Martha, and I didn't grasp it. I saw the names beforehand, but I didn't grasp it till they were in the formation. It was the largest ceremony I've ever participated in dealing with heroism, over 50. And in front of me were the complete representation of all the people in the Pentagon. There were soldiers and civilians. There were young and old. There were men and there were women. And some were in very good shape because they're obviously in the military, and some were in not good shape at all. Some were overweight. And it reminded me, once again, that heroism doesn't have an age, it doesn't have a sex, it doesn't have a race, it doesn't have a religion. What it does have is people with heart and people with character who respond instantly to save other people's lives at the expense of their own. And that, I believe, what we saw in the Pentagon that day firsthand and what took place in New York City propelled America forward. It was a tragic day, an unforgettable day, but the memory of that day as displayed by people of courage, I think, just washed over the American people. And we are better people for